Hey everyone, I'm Anton, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be reviewing Pikmin 3 Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch. Pikmin is one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, so I just had to get the Deluxe port. So if you've played the original version or are thinking about jumping into the series, then this video should highlight the new additions and differences between both versions as well. So before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to see future videos on the channel, and let's get started. So let's start off with the story of the game. So a team of explorers journey to a mysterious planet to find food to save their home planet from extinction. However, as they initiate the landing sequence, the ship ends up crashing on the planet. So Alf, Brittany, and Charlie have to reunite with each other once again and find the missing parts of their ship. However, they must also find food to survive during their adventure. This is where the Pikmin come into action. By using them as your army, you can command them to help you fight large and small enemies, solve puzzles, and collect items. Pikmin live in an onion, a nest-like object that allows you to select how many of what type you want. And there are many different types of Pikmin that each have their own characteristics and abilities, which are super helpful in certain situations. Depending on the size and weight of the object, you will need the amount of Pikmin that is displayed above it. This makes it so that way you must balance all of your Pikmin types and keep a good amount on you at all times. And let's talk about the different Pikmin types that you will find throughout the adventure. First, we have the classic Pikmin types, which are red, blue, and yellow. Red have fire resistance, blue have water resistance, and yellow have electricity resistance. This creates a lot of strategy, as you will need to know what type of Pikmin can accomplish a certain task. Certain Pikmin types have other advantages too, such as that yellow Pikmin can be thrown higher. The game introduces two brand new Pikmin types, being the rock and flying Pikmin. The rock type allows you to break glass and crystals. The flying ones can easily attack enemies in the air or carry objects over water. They are both great additions to the Pikmin formula and do not feel gimmicky in any way. The purple and white Pikmin from Pikmin 2 are in the game. Purple Pikmin are very strong and white Pikmin are poisonous. However, they are only found in the mission and bingo battle modes, which is quite disappointing. You can increase your amount of Pikmin by returning items to the onion. The onion will then spit out Pikmin seeds where they can be plucked out and become Pikmin. Each area in Pikmin 3 is beautifully crafted, with minute details even in the smallest of areas. It really feels like you're walking in a real-life garden, exploring the different sections and admiring the vegetation and land formations. These areas usually have barriers that require certain Pikmin to break them. This makes it so that the game progresses equally across all areas. You may also find water in some parts of the area, and even moving platforms and other small gimmicks and stuff that help to make the locations much more interesting. By changing captains, you can then multitask and complete levels with ease. It does take a while to master, but once you have the general hang of it, then it will add a whole other layer to the game. The enemies in Pikmin games are very memorable and adds the atmosphere. Different enemies have certain weaknesses, which sometimes require a certain Pikmin type to easily beat. Pikmin can die, so you have to be careful when going up against nasty foes. Pikmin bosses raise the bar even higher, as they're all very unique and require certain strategies in order to successfully beat. The game easily lays this out to you, so you don't have to figure it out for yourself, but it is quite tricky as some enemies are easy to battle, and some are absolutely terrifying. Oh my goodness, keep me away from that thing. Let's talk about Bingo Battle, which is a multiplayer competitive game mode. In this mode, you need to collect objects and return them to your onion to get your bingo card filled out. If you collect cherries, which work the same way as a question mark block in Mario Kart, you can destroy all of your opponent's Pikmin, add more Pikmin to your army, and even get a random slot on your bingo card filled in. This game mode is really fun and addictive. However, it is only playable locally, which is quite disappointing, meaning that if you don't have someone to play it with you, then you're out of luck, which is why Nintendo needs to make online Bingo Battle a thing. Pikmin 99, please Nintendo, I am begging you. In mission mode, you have a certain time limit to complete a certain task. There are 3 options, being collect treasure, battle enemies, and defeat bosses. It's pretty self-explanatory. There are different rankings depending on how well you do, so you don't need to collect everything in order to enjoy it, which is nice. But if you aren't satisfied and want to beat the mission, then it will take you some time to practice and memorize the map. So now with that out of the way, let's get to the new additions and quality of life changes that the deluxe version brings to the table. Now with the Switch being a runaway success, Nintendo has ported every Wii U game that was well received. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, and Super Mario 3D World, plus Bowser's Fury, have all been great ports and have added new content, some more significant than others. Some people hate the idea of ports, but I absolutely love it. I honestly didn't own a Wii U until a few years ago, so having the chance to experience all these great games that I missed out on is fantastic. And these games are now all portable, which is another added benefit. I guess the main problem is that Nintendo is pricing these games at full price and is treating them as new releases, but that's a discussion for another day. So let's take a look at Pikmin 3 Deluxe, starting off with the story mode. Now obviously the biggest change when it comes to Wii U ports is the controls. Now the Wii U has the gamepad as its main controller. It allows for touch controls and for extra buttons and menus to show up on the screen. You also have the option to use the Wiimote as well, which works wonders, especially for Pikmin 3. But now we have the Joy-Cons and the Pro Controller, and since the Switch does not have a sensor bar like the Wii and Wii U did, this means that the pointer control schemes aren't as accurate. But in Pikmin 3 Deluxe, Nintendo has given us multiple control options, and some changes to the game's mechanics to feel more natural, and honestly it works surprisingly well. The traditional and gyro control options feel great. Even if they aren't perfect, they're definitely playable. However, I would say that they do take a while to get used to, especially if you haven't played a Pikmin game before. In the Wii U version, charging was a pain to do, that I really didn't even use it. You had to lock on the object and then hold the charge button to charge all of the Pikmin to the locked object. It wasn't the best, but it worked. But now in Pikmin 3 Deluxe, the charge attack has been made a lot easier to use, that I pretty much use it all the time. You just hold the X button and then select the direction you want your Pikmin to go in, and release X. It's very simple. You don't need to lock on anything anymore, but you can if you want. You can also pick specific Pikmin types as well, which is really handy when trying to defeat a certain enemy that requires a certain Pikmin type to defeat a lot easier. Lock-on is now a lot easier to use as well. You can cycle between different objects while using it too, which makes everything seem a lot simpler and easily allows you to defeat a lot of enemies quicker. Another change is that Pikmin doing a task can now be paused if called. This makes it so that way you don't mess with the Pikmin who are busy. So that means you just need to call them twice with your whistle to successfully call them. Another welcome addition is that you can now call Pikmin closer to the onion to return to it. This makes Pikmin hunting less of a problem than it ever was, and lets you instead focus on the task at hand, instead of trying to look for that Pikmin that might get eaten if you don't get it in time. Now, if you are an experienced player, difficulty options are now available. You have normal, hard, and ultra spicy difficulties. Normal mode is pretty much an easier mode than the original game. Hard mode is the same difficulty as the original, and ultra spicy mode is the hard mode, so if you really want a challenge. Pretty much these modes just speed up the day, add more health to bosses and enemies, and much more. These add more replayability in the story mode and allow a younger, less experienced player to jump in on the fun. There are now achievements in the game as well, which are called badges. These are really great for adding more playtime to the game, so if you're a completionist then you'll definitely enjoy this. And you can get them in all of the modes too. Co-op has been added to the main story mode, which is a great fit for the Switch, since it has two controllers right out the box. I'm surprised this feature wasn't in the original version of the game, but I guess the Switch was the perfect opportunity for it to be implemented. Pikmin 2 fans will be surprised to hear the Piccolopedia is finally back. If enemies are collected, then you will unlock information about them. Each character has their own little input in the Piccolopedia, which is really cool. For example, Brittany talks about the enemy's appearance, and Louis talks about how to cook the enemy, which is definitely fitting. But by far, the biggest additions to Pikmin 3 Deluxe are the side stories. These are two stories that show you what Olimar and Louis were up to during the beginning and ending of the main story. The stages from the main story are used, but slightly changed to make it feel fresh. Honestly, at some points, it was hard to recognize if the stage was an old one or not. There are 5 days in Olimar's assignment and 10 in Olimar's comeback. each day is pretty much like a mission that you would find in mission mode, but now on the maps of the main game. Now I wouldn't say that this is like Pikmin 4 or anything, so if you are going to get this game and you already played the original and are looking to satisfy your Pikmin 4 hunger, then this won't do it. But if you want to play Pikmin 3 again and really love all the new changes and additions that have been done to the deluxe version, then I really recommend getting this game. And if you're new to the Pikmin franchise in general and have never played any of the games before, then this is a really great place to start, especially with how streamlined everything is, and you don't need to play the first or second game in order to play the third one. And for even more content in this game, all the DLC missions from the original are included, which is really cool. Oh my goodness, look at that pizza! And in the deluxe version, you have an option to continue after hours, which basically allows you to continue playing even after the time runs out. But this can be quite aggravating if you only needed one cherry left. And that's why Pikmin 3 Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch gets a 9 out of 10. If you aren't quite sure that you will enjoy Pikmin 3, then check out the pretty lengthy demo on the Switch's eShop. It will give you a good idea of the gameplay. I would also recommend playing the demo's single mission, as it will help you to get a great feel of the mechanics. So that's about it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to see future videos from the channel. What do you think about Pikmin 3 Deluxe? Have you gotten it, or are you sticking with the Wii U version? Well, let me know, and I will see you all in the next one.